Saturday, I listened to the game, and pretty much it was a tale of two halves, as things were clicking in the first half until an untimely safety happened in the second quarter, and then the third quarter fumble also killed a promising drive, which shifted momentum back to Holy Cross. Talk about, despite the setbacks, the team's perseverance, and what should we expect this week from Marshall, as this is their season opener?
I think for us, coming out of our first game, there's several things that we take away as positives. At times we ran the ball very effectively. At times we threw the ball very effectively. I think, we have to find a way to build on the positive things that we did throughout the course of that game. And in the first half, for the most part, 3/4 of the first half, the first quarter, and then half of the second quarter, we were pretty sound on defense. We were able to make stops on defense, keep a lot of the plays that their quarterback and their receivers were completing. We were able to keep those plays in front of us, make tackles, get off the field. And I think as time went on, we had two series where we were backed up on our own end of the end zone. One, we threw an interception on third down, which they in return ended up going down and scoring. And then we had the safety, which gave them points, and they followed that up with another score. So there's 16 points right there, which is a huge momentum shift. And we've got to find a way offensively in those situations to get a few first downs, give our defense a chance to rest, and find a way to combat the scores that they made and get back in the game and kind of swing that momentum back in our favor. I think as the second half went on, conditioning became a little bit of a factor for us, and that's something that me specifically as a head coach I have to address and ensure that our kids are able to fly around and continue to play for 60 minutes. And just like you said, it was kind of a tale of two halves. We were in the game and competitive for the most part in the first half, and then there's a point in time where they rattle off a number of unanswered points where we're unable to answer and get back in the game. And it's those runs and those shifts in momentum which we have to be able to stop and find a way to go down and score and kind of swing the momentum back in our favor. There's definitely some things that we have to clean up. We had way too many pre-snap penalties, a few offsides, defensively, a couple times where we jumped offsides on offense, and just way too many penalties in general. So that's something specifically for me we will address. That's something we will address as a coaching staff and that we will address as a team. You're not going to be able to beat good football teams if you're committing essentially unforced errors, things. You're going to have some of those competitive penalties, a hold every now and then, possibly a pass interference when you're competing for a ball. But we've got some pre-snap penalties and just different things like that, which we actually have to be disciplined enough not to commit those types of errors. And if you're going to play good football teams, you got to be able to play error-free, turnover-free football. Throughout the course of the game, we had 2 turnovers on one drive, I think in the third quarter, maybe second or third quarter, where we're driving and we commit a fumble in the red zone. I believe we fumbled the ball on the inside the 10-yard line where we've got an opportunity to go in and get points. We missed a field goal where, it's not a great hold, and, those are errors that we're making, which are physical errors, which are things which we address as a coaching staff, and now we've got to be able to follow through and execute effectively, once we get into the game, perfect ball security, being able to spin the strings away when we kick a field goal and that type of thing. As we move forward, I think there's definitely some positives to build on. And we mentioned the tale of two halves. Essentially in football, you have to find a way to play 60 minutes. Every coach in the country is going to talk about being able to play a game for 60 minutes. There's 15 minutes in every quarter, and you never know when those 4 or 5 plays are going to come that are going to be the difference in winning and losing football games. And we have to find a way to be able to be in shape, concentrate, still be able to execute effectively the things that we need to execute, and be able to run our offense, run our defense, be efficient and effective, and control field position on special teams to where we're giving ourselves an opportunity to compete. For a good portion of that game, that game looked like 2 evenly matched football teams. And then as we began to get mentally fatigued and we began to make a few more mistakes, they pulled away. Our kids continued to compete. We scored some points in the second half and got a few crucial stops and some turnovers in the second half and moved the ball a little bit in the second half. But we've got to find a way to play at the level we're capable of playing at for 60 minutes, and that's the true essence of coaching, to figure out how to be able to get your kids to perform effectively throughout throughout the course of a game and then be able to consistently perform at the level that they're capable of. And that's the challenge. We've got to find a way to get better between week 1 and week 2. Most good football teams make huge improvements between week 1 and week 2, and we've got to find a way to do that. Our task going from Holy Cross to Marshall doesn't get any easier. Marshall's a very good football team. They've won 10 games multiple times in the last few years. They're one of the most successful non-Power 5 teams in the country, and last year they won 10 games. The year before they won 10 games. So fortunately for us, they graduated a number of guys off that team. They got some tremendous athletes. They run to the ball. They're a fast team. They're a physical team. They're very well coached by their head coach and their coordinators, and it'll be a stiff challenge for us. But those are the types of exciting games and challenges that you look forward to as a competitor, as a football coach, and as a player. Every one of our guys want to have an opportunity to play at the highest level and to get an opportunity to play a team like Marshall that has had the success that they've had, that will have an opportunity to be a ranked team nationally in the top 25 FBS poll. That's a challenge that all of us accept. And for me as a head coach, it's exciting for me to get a chance to match wits with their head coach and their coaching staff. And we will do our best on a daily basis to ensure that we're preparing our guys to the best of our ability to get them an opportunity to be successful. So this week will be exciting for us. We're going to take away the positives. We're going to focus on the things that we need to fix and correct. Our guys had a productive start to their week. We're getting a chance to be in meetings and practice yesterday and finding a way to just understand the things that we need to correct and be able to see the success and see the difference in when we were able to effectively execute and when we didn't. And those guys understanding that there's some improvements that each one of us have to make individually. That starts with me as a head coach. That starts with every one of our coaches, and that matriculates down to our players. And I think our players understood that over the course of the weekend and yesterday in our meetings, and they accept that challenge, and we will do our best to make sure we put our best foot forward as we go into Huntington, West Virginia at 6 o'clock on Saturday to play Marshall.
Well, thank you, Coach Farrier, for all your insights. That'll conclude all my questions. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
Our first question comes from the line of Mike Klingeman from the Baltimore Sun. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. This is the second offensive juggernaut in a week you face. This guy, this quarterback, Chase Litton, looks, his numbers are almost up there with the guy from Pujo's from Holy Cross. Will playing these two teams back-to-back help Morgan when it gets to the MEAC?
I would say absolutely. I think every game is an opportunity for us to get better. And in a lot of instances, every game you play, you're essentially, for us as a coach, we're chasing perfection. We're trying to put a program and a process in place that's going to put our kids in a position to perform at their best during times of competition, and then to be able to progress that once we're able to get them to perform to their best, to be able to consistently do that every single Saturday. So Holy Cross was a very well-coached football team, and I think what our kids were able to see was that even against a very good football team, when we effectively executed the things which we've identified will enable us to be successful, we had a chance to have success, and we had some success in the game. When we got away from some of those things which we've identified, whether we didn't make the right read or we had eye violations or some physical mistakes, then we did not experience as much success. So these types of games force you to focus. They force you to have a high level of discipline. They force you to play at a competitive level with energy, excitement, and enthusiasm throughout the course of an entire football game. And when you're unable to do that, to effectively do what you need to do to have a chance to win the game, it identifies some areas that you got an opportunity to improve. And I think that's the biggest thing that comes out of the Holy Cross game, where we see what we need to improve. And I think as we go into this Marshall game, there's some stuff from the quarterback perspective which will carry over, which we'll still be able to focus in on. But Marshall's a good football team, and we'll have to play well to have a chance to win.
Who looked good? Having looked at the films now, were there guys individually who impressed you in the Holy Cross game?
For Holy Cross or for us?
No, for you.
I think in his first game at quarterback, I think Chris Andrews did a pretty good job. He was 21 of 34 for over 200 yards and threw a touchdown. There's 3 or 4 opportunities. There's probably 5 or 6 opportunities in there where just as he learns our offense better, some balls are going to come out a lot quicker, and he's going to have a chance to complete a few more passes. But he could have very easily had opportunities to be 25 or 26 of 34 for a significant more number of yards where we get a chance to get a few more first downs and possibly score points. I think Orlando Johnson did a great job of stepping in and running the ball 10 times for 72 yards for over a 7-yard average per carry, 2 touchdowns. I think Lamont Brown did a good job. We went through a series there where we had Herb Walker back for a time, and then he experienced an injury where he was out for the rest of the game, and Lamont Brown did a good job stepping in. We had 5 or 6 receivers catch balls, and our tight end stepped up and caught 3 passes for us, which I thought was pretty significant for a guy who caught 5 passes all of last year. Those guys did fairly well. Defensively, Dedrick Jones did an outstanding job at corner for us, had an outstanding game, didn't make a lot of mistakes, was able to hold up his end, in a lot of man coverage situations and come down and make some tackles for us. So, and there's some other guys who had some pretty good games, but those guys kind of come to mind initially, and those will be performances that we look to improve on. Damari Whitaker had 9 tackles in the middle, and for us, middle linebacker, those interior guys are extremely important for us, and those 2 or 3 guys on defense, and some other guys offensively. We're going to continue to build off those performances, and hopefully some other guys can step up and continue to get better week to week.
Finally, this is Marshall's coming off a bye week in its opening week, the only school in the country to have one. Is that work to your advantage or not?
Well, I think it works to advantages in a number of ways. Number one, for them, they get an extra week to prepare for us, where we were preparing for a different opponent. So they've had all summer, and their focus has solely been on us. So for them, in that aspect, it's an advantage for them. For us, it's an advantage to having had the opportunity to play a game. I think every team in the country makes mistakes in their first game, just the nature of playing against different competition. You've been playing against yourself for 30 days or however many days based on when you report to camp. And you kind of get that itch to get that first hit. And, every team in the country, somebody's going to jump off sides in the first game. So to kind of get through some of those initial first game jitters and have an opportunity to make some of the corrections we need to make, I think is an advantage for us. So we've got an opportunity to get better. We've been able to identify some things we need to fix and correct, and we're going to address those things over the course of this week as we lead into that game. So I think for us, having had that first game under our belts, I think is an advantage for us, and we'll use that. We should get better from week 1 to week 2, and for me as a head coach and for every single one of my coaches, we're going to stress and stress and stress the improvements and the focus that needs to take place for us to be able to execute effectively week to week and from week 1 to week 2 to go in to have a chance to compete against teams as good as Marshall.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
We have a question from the line of Doug Smock with the Charleston Gazette-Mail. Please go ahead.
Hi, Coach. 2 things. One, talk about bringing in Chris Andrews as your quarterback. I assume you had a need there and you filled it, and you talked at some length about what he did Saturday. But talk about the process of bringing him in.
Coming out of last season in 2015, we graduated 2 senior quarterbacks. Moses Scalon and Seth Higgins, who had been here for a number of years and were highly successful and won a lot of games. And we went into the spring with no guys who had any real game reps or experience in a real game. So we had some guys, Khalil Trotman and a few other guys that were here that we went through the course of the spring with and just felt like we needed an experienced guy that could add to the mix of guys who would have an opportunity to play for us. And we were able to kind of find Chris. Got a call about him and started exploring the possibilities, and then we found a graduate program that would fit for him to enable him, based on NCAA rules, to transfer. He wanted to pursue a degree here that wasn't available at his previous institution. So, as we got him here, and he's been fantastic. He's learning our offense. He did some really good things on Saturday, and we'll continue to develop him. But, he's only been here less than 30 days. He got here August 6th. Today is September 6th or September 5th. So just under 30 days or right at 30 days. And I think over the course of the next couple of weeks, just as he continues to get live speed reps and more looks at what we do, he'll better understand what we're doing and have a chance to continue to get better every week. And I think playing in that first game against live competition, seeing people fly around, rotate coverages, people coming at them to where you actually do have a chance to get hit and tackled, because we don't allow the quarterback to be tackled in preseason camp just so that you don't get them hurt in an unnecessary time. The game speeds up. So I thought he did fairly well in the first game, and we hope he'll continue to develop. But it was a long process to get him here. We brought him up on a visit. He came and took a look, and he's fit in really well with our guys, and we're extremely happy to have him.
Second final thing, you come into the season as an interim coach, and it sounds like things got thrust on you pretty quickly, but did you come into the season feeling you're auditioning for the permanent job? And I know you're probably not worried about that right this minute, but did you come into the season feeling that?
I don't think there's any added pressure, and I get that question a lot. And for me, my kind of stance on it is, the reality of it is that there's only a few coaches who really may be in a situation where they're lifetime contracts, but the reality of it is, for me, is that no matter where you're at, no matter what your contract says, I think every coach in the country is interim, because the minute the institution decides they want to go in a different direction, no matter what your contract says, you're out. So we're all only at all of these institutions for a short period of time until the university decides they want to do something different. So I think all of us on a daily basis, every single day, have to go to work with a great attitude, trying to make an impact on the kids we coach, trying to better our programs, and every day we have to find a way to prove that we're the best person for the job wherever we are. And I think if you take that approach, you've got a chance to make an impact on the lives of the young men that we coach and the institution that you work at, and leave the place in a better position than where you were when you came. But I think we're all interim, and at any point in time, we've all got to do our best at whatever we're doing. And in the moment that you're not feeling that way, every school has the right to make that change, whether you got a 10-year contract or a 3-minute contract. When they make the decision to move and change, they're going to make it, and that ball will keep rolling, and that wheel will keep spinning.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Coach Farrier, for your time, and good luck at Marshall this Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Once again, Morgan State will head to Huntington, West Virginia, and face Marshall of Conference USA this Saturday at 6 p.m. The contest will be shown live on BN TV. Our second call this morning comes from Tallahassee, Florida, as Florida A&M head coach Alex Wood joins us. The Rattlers dropped their season opener at Miami on Saturday and return to action this weekend at Coastal Carolina. Good morning, Coach Wood.
Good morning, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm fine. I wanted to ask you, when playing up the division this early, and especially against a team like Miami, what are you trying to assess during the game, and also what positives did you see during Saturday's outcome?
Well, obviously it's an opportunity to play under game, circumstances and situations, which is always good, because ultimately that's what we're all preparing for, is the game. So we had a chance to play our first game of the year. As you mentioned, we played up, to an FBS opponent, ACC conference in the Miami Hurricanes, and we were able to go in and evaluate our players. I mean, in our starters, and then even some of our backups and the roles that they play within our team. So it was it was an opportunity to evaluate what we're doing from schematics to technique and then our ability to play with teams at that level.
And you have Coastal Carolina this week, and if for those that don't know, they're going up to FBS also. They're a Sun Belt member now. Just talk about what Coastal brings to the table, and how well do you match up against them?
Well, obviously they've got an outstanding team. They opened up against Lamar and won a game. Scored 35 points. Matter of fact, pretty quickly. to come back on Lamar and eventually beat them. So they've got a solid program. Obviously the fact that they are moving up just talks about the progress that they've made in a short period of time and their ability to be able to attract top flight players for the FCS level for sure. And then now they think that they've got players that are able to compete at the FBS level. So. They've got an outstanding program. It'll be another challenging week for us, but we're up for the challenge. We'll make some improvements from week 1 to week 2 as we get ready to prepare for Coastal. That's what playing games once again does. Gives you a chance to evaluate your personnel in game situations, and we'll go from there.
And lastly, both of your quarterbacks, they were pretty efficient as they both completed 50% of their passes. Just talk about them adjusting to the speed of the game.
Yeah, Kenny, he came out, had first 2 plays were good. Then the third one, he got forced out of the pocket a little bit and probably should have just threw the ball away because he was outside. He was out of the pocket, but tried to make a play and we threw a pick and gave the ball to Miami in short field, which obviously, you shouldn't do that if you want to try to win the game. But other than that, I thought that he did some really good operational things for us in terms of directing our protections in our run game. On the throws that we asked him to make, he was fairly accurate, as you had alluded to. And Ryan Stanley, the same thing. In terms of some things that you don't see from a fan standpoint. A quarterback that can direct protection, understands how to protect himself is important, and then obviously where to go with the football, in the run game and in the passing game. So that was encouraging to see, and the fact that those guys didn't get rattled. They've been in. Ryan, that was his first college experience, and Kenny had been in games before, so it was good to see them under those circumstances and have a chance to evaluate both of them.
Well, thank you, Coach, and that's all the questions I have. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, to register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone. We do have a question from the line of Max McKinnon with the Sun News. Please go ahead. Mr. McKinnon, your line is open. Please go ahead. Max McKinnon with the Sun News, your line is now open. Please go ahead. We have a question from the line of Trevin A. Jones with NBC Sports. Please go ahead.
This is SBN Sports. Coach, good morning. How you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Well, Coach, I was looking at some stats and trying to look over some notes on the game. You used 2 different quarterbacks. Is that going to be designed as we go forward, or was it just an opportunity for you to get Stanley in the game in this past game?
Well, what actually happened is Kenny Coleman got cramps. He started cramping up, so we went to Ryan to get him some experience in the game. So that's how that unfolded.
Okay, and then what about the backfield? I see that, is it Supri? Do I have that name correct?
Super
and Coleman. Are we going to look to them as the workhorses in your backfield this season, or is it just going to be running back by committee?
No. Well, it's always running back by committee, but we do have a starter. Devin Bowers is our starter. Devin was not available for this game. He suffered an injury in our last scrimmage of the preseason, but he'll be back. We're pretty sure he'll be back this week against Coastal. But Bowers is our starter. Super is our backup, as well as Tevin Spells and Marcus Gaskins. Those are our tailbacks right now.
And my last question will be a 2-part. How impressed were you with Super filling in, and what stood out about your team to you as a result of this game?
Well, Hans did an outstanding job. We didn't rush the ball, obviously. We rushed it, but we lost some yardage, so it kind of got nullified. We were at 100 yards with without the losses, obviously, we took 3 sacks and some other things happened in that game. But I thought he did a good job in protections and did what he could do, for his first start as a collegiate player. And Hans actually walked onto our team, so we were pleased with what we've seen from him, as well as Tevin Spells. And then in terms of our offensive line, our offensive unit, we thought Lubens Polonese, our right tackle, played exceptionally well. Did a good job. We thought as a unit also up front, those guys did a good job, only giving up 3 sacks. In that situation against a formidable front like Miami. On defense, I thought that Calvin Darville played hard and made some things happen. We Elijah Price came in a backup role and got a sack on their quarterback, which was encouraging. Ronald Harris, our outside linebacker, made some tackles and some plays that we were encouraged to see. And our corners made some plays on deep balls that we were pleased to see, and were able to create a turnover down there late in the game by one of our freshmen free safeties. Made a hit on their receiver, made him cough up the ball. So some of those things were encouraging, and then obviously we had some challenges with our special teams, but we were able to lost our long snapper. He got suspended from the game, and then our backup came in and put it on the ground right away, and then he hung in there though and came back and provided us with good snaps, so we could get the ball away and try to maintain some reasonable field position. So, those kinds of things that happen to you, those adversities that happen to you during the course of a game, I was glad the way our guys responded in those situations. We didn't go in the tank, so to speak, but we've got to get better, obviously, and we'll have a chance to do that against Coastal this Saturday.
And my last question, Coach, Kobe Blanton got a lot of work. How impressed were you with his punting in this game? And did he do what you expect him to do?
Yeah, he did. He got more work than we wanted him to, for sure. And he did a good job punting. We asked him to do 2 different styles of punting. One just just a regular punt it away and directional punt it, which is our philosophy, and then we obviously asked him to move the pocket, so to speak, and do some rugby-style punting, which he did a good job of, so we were pleased with that.
Coach, thank you for your time, and good luck this weekend.
Sure. Thank you.
We do have a question from the line of Max McKinnon with the Sun News. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Sorry, I had my phone on mute there. I was just looking, just one question for you. I got just a quick scouting report on Coastal and, kind of what you expect to see from them this weekend.
Well, again, they've got a solid football team from top to bottom. They're solid. They're fundamentally sound, offensively, defensively. Offensively, from a formational standpoint, they're very similar to us. So there'll be some similar, style of play that way. Defensively, they're very similar to us. They run a 4-3. They play a lot of quarters coverage. Their punt team, they're a shield punt, which is same as us. A lot of teams in college football are the same. So a lot of similarities that way. But obviously, it'll come down to personnel, and then we'll find out how well we'll match up when we play. I know that they've got outstanding personnel. You can tell that, obviously. Their running backs are outstanding. They've got a new quarterback in place, obviously. And then they lost their middle linebacker, I think, against Lamar, so they've got a backup or another individual in at middle linebacker, but their front is stout. They're quick. They can move. In the secondary, they're sure tacklers. They pursue well. They run to the football well. And so it'll be a challenge, but we're looking forward to it, going up and playing them.
Cool, perfect. Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Thank you again, Coach Wood, for your time, and good luck against Coastal on Saturday.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Florida A&M will travel to Conway, South Carolina this Saturday to face Coastal Carolina at 7 p.m. The contest will be streamed live on GoCCUSports.com. Our third coach who's joining us this morning is Bethune-Cookman head coach Terry Sims. The Wildcats suffered an unfortunate setback on Sunday as the 12th annual MEAC West Challenge was canceled in the first quarter due to weather. The Wildcats will now turn their attention to North Texas this Saturday as they face the Eagles and their new head coach. Good morning, Coach Sims.
Good morning, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm fine. Coach, you've been in this business a pretty long time and at a variety of places across the country. But have you ever had to deal with a situation similar to what took place on Sunday in terms of a game cancellation? And could you also briefly just take us into the locker room and tell us how do you keep your team motivated and just trying to keep them going despite the condition that's ahead of them?
Well, no, I've never had that happen in 22 years of coaching. And I talked to a couple of my staff members about that, and some of the guys on the staff said the same thing. You know, I have one coach that's been coaching 43 years, and he says it never happened. But keeping the guys loose, I mean, we had a few times to go out and actually try and get those guys warmed up. They let us take the field 4 times and brought us back in. So in the locker room, you can not do a whole lot but stretch and, you know, just talk to them about the first quarter and the things that we did right and the things that we need to clean up. So it's only so much you can do in a locker room if you have delays like that, lightning delays.
Now, from the game film that is available, what did you see that impressed you on Sunday?
Well, I see that, you know, one thing that we talked about all week leading to the game, we wanted to go out and be physical and play hard, and I think we did that. You know, our guys were flying around. They were doing the right things, and that was, I think, my main point, you know, all week was that we do the little things. You know, we came out, and I think we had 4 penalties at the time they called it, which is not terrible, but we want to clean it up and take that as close to 0 as we can have it.
And this week you head back to your old stomping grounds in Texas as you face North Texas, and they have a new coach in Sept Latrell. Just talk about North Texas, and then what does BCU have to do in order to remain competitive?
Well, I'm not really just going to be competitive. We're going to win the football game. So, you know, one thing we do know watching film, they have some athletes. I mean, there's a lot of good football played in the state of Texas, and he had to go out and get a lot of transfers this year to kind of revamp his football team. And they did that, and those guys played a good game against SMU. They just came up on the short end. So we got to go. We got to continue to tempo and play fast and take care of the football on offense. On special teams, we got to make sure that we win the field position battle. You know, and on defense, it's obvious that we got to be stout. Our D-line has to control the line of scrimmage, and I think we'll be fine.
Well, thank you, Coach Sims. That's all the questions I have. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register for a question, please press 14 on your telephone. We do have a follow-up question from the line of Trevin A. Jones with SBN Sports. Please go ahead.
Coach, how you doing this morning?
I am excellent, Mr. Jones. How are you?
I am well, sir. Coach, just one quick question. What is a positive that you take and provide to your team or talk to your team about from a situation that you just experienced this past weekend? Like you said, you and a number of coaches in the long experience that you've had never experienced anything like that. So I would imagine the players haven't either. What do you talk to them about moving forward, and what positives do you take from the past weekend?
Well, I think you take all the positives that we had a chance to see on film, you know, from the short time that we did play. And you know, you talk to them about that and you encourage them with that, but you also have to take the mistakes that we made and clean them up and let them know that we have an opportunity to clean those mistakes up and another shot to go out and try to take care of business on Saturday.
That's all I had, Coach. Great. Thank you for your answer, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
We have a question from the line of Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please go ahead.
Coach Sims, good morning. How are you?
I am excellent, Mr. Williams. How are you?
I'm okay. What did you take from the end of the game? I think I was watching on TV. Alcorn had scored a couple of times. What were what kind of mistakes or what kind of assessment that you made when the game was called?
Well, honestly, with both of those touchdowns, we had a couple of new guys playing for us, and it was actually two busted coverages that allowed them to score. And that's something that we had to come in, and it's usually a halftime adjustment, but we had a little bit more time than that to go in and correct that and get all the guys back on the same page. But I like I said earlier, I'm still encouraged because our team was playing hard. And take nothing away from Alcorn. They have a very, very talented football team, and they were playing lights out themselves. But I have to, look at my guys and what they were doing. And we played hard, and for the most part, we played a clean football game. We had 4 penalties leading up to the cancellation of the game. But right now, where we are, I think we're headed forward, and we have some positive things on the horizon.
Well, how did you assess the play of Brown?
Larry started slow, but I think, everyone has to remember that this was Larry's first time starting, being a full-time starter. So it was a little bit of, butterflies, and, I had butterflies myself. And I think everyone has them before, a first game or first anything. So, to start out, he started out a little slow, but I think he got in the rhythm of the game, and he started feeling it a little bit. And toward, the end of the first quarter and the beginning of the second quarter, he played well.
And, Coach, you said you're familiar with North Texas. Tell us a little bit about that.
With me being familiar with North Texas? Well,
I think Ryan said something about going back to your old stomping grounds. Tell me a little bit about your relationship to Texas.
Well, I coached in the SWAC for a while. I coached at Texas Southern for a few years, and I coached at Prairie View for a while. So that's the coaching part of it. But I actually coached against North Texas when I was at Louisiana Lafayette. We were in the same conference. So I've been to Denton a few times and been around that area for a while.
Is some of your relationship with that conference and that area one of the reasons why you or Lynn or whomever was able to get North Texas on the schedule?
Honestly, no. That's the only team that we could find to play us right now. Everyone's schedules are booked up, or they're not interested in playing or what have you. But North Texas was the only one that had an open date when we had an open date.
And from the standpoint of, I know that the conference they play in is kind of a conference ahead of you. How do you see the matchup in terms of skilled players and talent and those kinds of things? You match up well with them, or is this going to be one of the things where they have a lot more depth and a lot more players, for example, than you do?
No, like I said earlier, they went out and I think he signed a few JUCO players and some guys like that to kind of fill some holes. But whenever you go up against an FBS school, the main thing you look at are the guys up front. And, that's where the depth up front kind of gets you. But I'm looking at their roster and looking at our roster and watching film. I think we match up decent with them. You never know until you hit the field, but I think we'll be fine when we hit the field on Saturday.
And I still don't have another question. I can ask another one, Coach. MEAC teams kind of took it on the chin this week, those who played up. What is your feeling about playing against teams, FBS teams, some of them in the Power 5 conferences? Does it accrue to your team's benefit in the long run?
I think anytime you have an opportunity to play football, it benefits you. Anytime you have a chance to play the game, you should play it. You don't get better at a game like football unless you play it. So I think it's to your benefit to play. And you set a bar for yourself, and I think it's a measuring stick for your program to see where you are at that point.
Okay, Coach, thanks. Good luck on Saturday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Sims, for your time, and good luck once again on Saturday in North Texas. Well, Bethune-Cookman will travel to North Texas this Saturday at 6 p.m. The game will be streamed live on meangreensports.com. Next up on the line is Delaware State head coach Kenny Carter. Delaware State dropped their season opener to Delaware this past Thursday and will return home for their home opener against Monmouth this weekend. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
You mentioned last week the Hornets had a roster full of newcomers, and this was their first time to see some legitimate game action. So just talk about their performance and what can you take away from what happened on Thursday.
We had 14 true freshmen that played in the game. We had 27 young men. It was the first Division I football game they'd ever played in, and 13, it was the first college game that they'd ever played in. So that's relatively young, and but we expected that they would go out and perform, and they played. We played solid. We just had too many turnovers. You know, when you have turnovers and you don't defend the run effectively enough consistently, then you're going to struggle, and that's what happened. So we did have some very encouraging things that we saw on film, and we look forward to playing our next game.
Logan Westcott on defense had 15 tackles, and also your quarterback, he threw his first two collegiate touchdown passes against Delaware. How would you rate their outings?
Logan being a free safety, you don't want your free safety making that many tackles, obviously, but he's a good player. He's a good tackler in space. He showed that last year, and we expect that he will continue to play at that level. And Dan, Dan's a really good pure passer. Logan, Bryson Aline was the recipient of one of the passes out of the backfield, and then Mason Rutherford had a great catch on a corner route in the end zone. Who also played very, very well, and they played together in junior college, so that was a natural matchup. So we're very pleased with how he performed, how he threw the ball, but he also, had too many interceptions.
And also talk about this week's opponent in Monmouth.
Monmouth is a well-coached football team. They won last week against their opponent. They're pretty balanced in the run and the pass. We know that they're going to play hard. Last time we played them, we went up there. And so it's going to be fun. I had the chance to visit with their coach this summer a little bit, and have a lot of respect for him and what he's done with that program. He's been the only head coach they've ever had in the history of the football program. So it's going to be fun to play at home.
Well, thank you, Coach Carter. That concludes my questions. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, to register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone. We do have another follow-up question from the line of Trevin A. Jones with SBN Sports. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Coach Carter, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How impressed were you with the young ones coming up and getting their experience under their belt? Did anything specifically stand out in your mind as you watched them develop in the first game?
The two that really stood out for me were the two offensive linemen. Our whole left side is two true freshmen, and the left guard, Kate Pedro from Hawaii, and then our left tackle, Big Sua. Neither one of them gave up a sack, and they twist on us. They gave us a lot of pressure. They did a really nice job of working together. So that was extremely encouraging. And then Mike Waters did a solid job at running back when he was in, and then really for the most part overall the freshmen themselves for their first game and having to play 14 of them, it was encouraging to watch them go about their business. So every game from here on out, I think we'll really have a better gauge of where we are.
And your defense was on the field for 41 minutes. Coach, is your defense in shape, or did they just get a workout in that game?
Well, you know what? That's really relative because the Delaware threw the ball 11 times. They run the ball. They didn't throw the ball very well last year either. They're somewhat of a one-dimensional team, but what they do it really well. They got two really good backs, and they're on the field that long because they're just running it. They're just grinding out the clock. And as you know, it takes more time off the clock when you run the ball compared to when you're throwing the ball. So, it's kind of a skewed statistic, but the other part of it too is that, we got to stop the run. If you stop the run, then and people struggle throwing the ball, then you should have a chance to get the ball back to your offense so they can run time off the clock and sustain drives to score. So it's kind of skewed when you look at the actual clock.
All right. Thanks, Coach. I appreciate your time, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks again, Coach Carter, for your time, and we wish you well versus Monmouth on Saturday.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey, Delaware State is back on the field this Saturday. They'll host Monmouth at 5 p.m. in Dover. The game will be streamed live on dsuhornets.com. Howard University head coach Gary Harrell joins us next. The Bison fell to Maryland on Saturday and will play their second straight Big Ten Conference opponent in Rutgers on Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm great. Coach, I had the chance to witness the game on the Big Ten Network, and the Bison had several good moments, most notably Kyle Anthony's first game as a collegiate player, and also Devin Rollins had a great game on defense. Just talk about those two, and then also assess what they have to do to remain at that level throughout the season.
It's very pleasing to see Kyle Anthony, who was a freshman, true freshman, come in. And, we got high hopes for this young man. He came in and hit the campus with a lot of energy. He brings a lot of great things to our offense. He can really stretch the field. He can catch underneath routes. He still have a long way to go, but to be a young freshman, he has some skills that we're going to utilize and get him implement right away. He wants the ball. He takes on the challenge very well. He's a very confident young man, and it's hard to find guys on this level at the position that can come in, and compete, against a Big Ten opponent as your first collegiate game. Devin Rollins is a guy on defense that we missed last year due to injuries. He's always been that type of guy. He's very smart. He knows where he needs to be. He gets lined up on defense. He is the quarterback on defense. Prior to missing a year, 2 years ago, he led the conference in tackles. So that's his forte, and having him back really helps us out on defense as far as alignments, assignments, and we know that he will be there as far as making the tackles.
And this week you play Rutgers, and there's another Power 5 team. Could you talk about how do you manage your roster playing two Power 5 teams in a row, and definitely on the road, and also just what goes into preparation as you try to look towards conference play down the line?
Well, it's another opportunity to play another football game. That's how we look at it. We just feel like we're fortunate to play another Big Ten opponent to use as a measuring stick to see where we are. I think we went out against Maryland. We had a slow start. We finished strong. We got some good things we can build on. A lot of things we just didn't do well. My hat goes off to Coach Durkin and his staff. Maryland had a very, very good game plan for us, and they executed very well on offense, and they played a great team defense. But we was able to find some momentum throughout the late portion of the game. The guys played through it, and we came out, somewhat healthy. We didn't have any major injuries. And our biggest thing is for us, even going to Rutgers. Yeah, we are sore, but that's football. We teach our guys how to play the game. As far as the low pad levels and continue to move your feet. Don't be lazy, standing around the pile. Don't do things that's going to heighten the chance of you getting injured. And we were able to go through the game and get through it and compete for the win and come out on the positive side. You know, we didn't get the ultimate goal as far as the win, but the lessons and experience that we got throughout that game is going to help us as we move forward. And, of course, you know, that's our main thing as far as approaching Rutgers. It's going to be another Big Ten opponent. We know it's going to be another brutal game that we have to come out and compete, but and also stay healthy. But we don't go into the game with the mindset, okay, let's get through this game and with no injuries. We go out and play. You know, injuries, you know, it's part of football. It's part of the game, and we just got to go out and play the game.
And lastly, talk about the play of both of your quarterbacks. They both had 100 yards passing, and they both combined for 18 to 29, and also had both of them threw a touchdown. Just talk about both of them, and or you still use the platoon system, or it's whoever has the hot hand.
You know, it's crazy, man. You know, I'm trying to see how we're going to somehow distinguish who will be the guy, but these guys, for some reason, we got two great quarterbacks. You know, it's a fortunate thing that we're in, but I mean, right now they're fighting for that position, and we feel good about where we are right now. But you know, we're going to continue to go throughout this week to see, you know, who will be the guy as we approach conference. But you know, we got two young quarterbacks, and they both do good things. They're great on and off the football field, very smart. But you know, as you can see, they both bring something to the game. They both do something that we like. And as we continue to go through the process, we want the guy that's going to manage the game, that's going to help us move the chains, get first downs, that can be a leader. You know, we're trying to find that next grade McGee that can come in and help us win ball games. But right now we have a good problem on our hands because they're both playing pretty good at that quarterback position. And we all know in football, when you got a guy, a trigger guy at the quarterback position, you got a chance to win a lot of ball games. But we have two. They're very young. They're both eager. It's a friendly competition between the two. But it's a unique situation to be in.
Well, thank you, Coach. That's all the questions I have. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
We have a follow-up question from the line of Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please go ahead.
I think Ryan asked my questions about the quarterback, but I wanted to know, Coach, when you assess the film and look at that, your team, as you said, they scored 2 touchdowns late. Was that really against second and third string Maryland players, and does that matter at all?
That matters a lot to me. I don't know if it was second, third. You know, I don't look at who they have on the field. You know, if you got some guys on the field, I'm pretty sure they are coached up the same way as your first string opponents. I mean, your first string guys in that role. So I can't control who the opponents put on the field. I can just look at what my guys did as far as executing, doing everything that we asked them to do, and making plays. But when you look at when you watch your film as a coach, when you comb through it, you know, I know some folks watch it through the media and with a naked eye, but as a coach, when you watch it on film, you go through and you see the starters versus the starters, and you see the missed opportunities. I mean, the chances are there. So it's not about if it's a one or two. It's about the execution. It's about doing everything that we asked them to do to get the results. We just didn't do that early in the game. You know, we did everything late in the game. We did everything in the beginning of the game like we did late in the game. We would have had some positive results like we had later in the game. But it's just about what we did not do. No matter who they had on the field, you know, it's about how we're doing exactly what we asked them to do on the football field.
So when you talk about, because I think what you're saying carries over to any time the HBCU, FCS teams play up, so to speak, that they play better in the second half. Does it just have to do with settling the teams down or making adjustments, or a combination of those things and others?
If I understand your question correctly, it's about, you know, just the focus level. You know, of course, making the adjustments throughout the game. You know, of course, when you play up, you're going to play a team that's typically going to be probably stronger. You know, they're going to be able to, you know, take away a lot of things, maybe the run game. You just got to find ways to still implement your run game if you want to get outside on the perimeter or you got to loosen them up with the passing game. You still have to find a way to get positive results. What I'm saying is that, as I watch film, a lot of things that was called, guys was open, quarterback might make a bad throw or things like that, as far as not carrying out your assignments, things that you have to do when you're playing up, because they already considerably have the edge with the talent level. So you have to play better. You have to eliminate the mistakes in order to get the results that you ultimately want.
We have a follow-up question from the line of Trevin A. Jones with SBN Sports. Please go ahead.
Coach, I couldn't let you get away without asking you a question. You right, Coach?
Absolutely.
How you doing, Coach?
How you doing? I'm good.
I'm good. Hey, Coach, let me ask you this question. Kyle Anthony, he seemed to have a type of fire. He brought an enthusiasm even when he made his receptions. And my question is, you being a former receiver yourself, how impressed are you with this young man? And will he become infectious?
Yeah, I'm very impressed with him. One, because he's been very consistent since he's been on campus. The plays that he made during the first game, he's been making in practice. He comes to practice very hard. He's able to win that 50-50 ball. That's his forte. You put it up, he's able to get separation. When you put the ball up in the air, somehow he finds a way to come down with it, which is a plus. And playing the position, when you watch him, how he practice, how he run his routes, he's a non-nonsense guy. He's very quiet, don't say much unless he has to say something. He's a feisty guy, very feisty. He's very serious about what he's trying to get accomplished, and he's a big receiver. But, it's hard to find big receivers that can play was talking about the footwork and the way that the body movement, the body control of a small receiver. So he's a big guy that can play big, but he also have the feet of a smaller guy. He's very crafty, very shifty. He's going to be special if he stays on track, if he stays humble. He's a well-coached individual. If he just stay where he is as far as mentally and just let his game steadily progress, he's going to be a very special receiver in the MEAC.
And his type of personality and what we saw on the field, do you think that was spread throughout the team?
Absolutely. The guys love him. We have a couple of guys, like Kyle, that the guys, that are young, but the guys are really gravitating to. They see the talent level that we're bringing in. They are very infectious. They really grow on their teammates. They bring a lot of energy. And anytime those guys make plays, now their teammates are looking and waiting for them to make those plays so they can cheer them on, so they can get excited. So, that's something that we really want to implement this year in our offense, the big play capabilities. And we have a couple of guys that can bring that, and it's good to have in a young Kyle Anthony who looks forward to it. And that's what he says. He plays not only for himself, but he plays for his teammates. When he's out there, he's trying to generate that energy. We say it all the time as far as finding those spark plugs on offense, defense, and special teams. And I think he really takes ownership of that, of being that guy that can go out and make plays and help his teammate generate that energy.
And my last question in reference to special teams, Dakota got a lot of work this weekend. How impressed were you with Dakota coming through? Wasn't that his first start?
Yeah, his first start, Dakota. And he also had some issues coming into the game with injuries. He really wasn't expected to play. But game day, he felt better, and we plugged him in. And, he did a great job. He helped us out in a lot of situations as far as the hang time. We knew they had a special guy in the return game. He didn't play a whole lot of reps at returning, well likely. So we knew that we had to have a good day in the kicking game to make sure that he didn't hurt us, because he's very explosive. But we didn't give him an opportunity because of the hang time, the way we covered. So special teams, with the exception of the block punt, I think played very well. We also had a missed PAT, but outside that, when it comes to coverage, things of that nature, they did somewhat of a decent job. We definitely want to get better in that area. We had a lot of punts. We punted 10 times. We had 8 kickoff returns. Those things we want to definitely diminish and have more kicks off and have more punt returns. But so that tells me that we have to get more first downs. That tells me that we have to play better on third down on defense and get stops. So there's a lot of things that we have to do with ourselves within the game to get better in situation, third down conversion on defense, getting first downs on offense. So that's what we're doing right now, just trying to clean up a lot of things that we didn't do well last week. And it's going to help us as we move forward. We didn't have much game film considering they had a new staff. No excuse. We try to research as much as possible. But hopefully this week now we have a game with Rutgers who played as Washington that we can now watch some tendencies, look at personnel, we can see things that they're trying to take away and put our guys in a better situation to be successful.
Thanks for your time as always, Coach. Appreciate you. Good luck this weekend against Rutgers.
Thank you.
We thank you, Coach Harrell, for your time. And like Mr. Jones said, wish you well at Rutgers this weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, Howard University is back on the road this Saturday at Rutgers. The game is scheduled for a noon kickoff and will be televised live on the Big Ten Network. We now head to Norfolk State to talk with head coach Latrell Scott. The Spartans had to wait an additional day to begin their season as they defeated Elizabeth City State on Sunday afternoon. Norfolk State heads up the highway this Saturday and will face Richmond. Good morning, Coach Scott.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. We'll start off with your quarterback, Greg Henderson Jr. He had a balanced attack on Sunday with a mix of run and pass. And also, the running back, Quintrell Chung, also had a great game with 88 yards on 18 carries. Can you assess the play of both of them and the importance they mean to the offense?
Well, Greg was solid. If we're going to be successful on offense, we need Greg to play a little bit better. He played well enough for us to win, but not nearly as well as he's capable of playing. And I think with the week of game reps under his belt, he'll come back and be better next week. Really pleased with the way the Quintrell played. 18 carries for 88 yards. Probably could have had more if he wasn't splitting carries with Gerard Johnson, but he's a big physical running back, and he gives us the presence to be able to get downhill yards. And he's faster than most people think, too. So, really, really proud of the progress that he's made to this point.
And talk about the play of your defense on Sunday as they created turnovers at crucial times. And could you also just take us to the moment when Walter Brandley made that sack and recovered the fumble, which stalled Elizabeth City's drive at your own 47-yard line?
Well, if you look at the first half, Elizabeth City came out and did a nice job mixing some things up and throwing quick games, and quick game and a lot of screens and things like that. But I've been around football long enough to know that a lot of the times quick game will make you look bad, but it's tough to lose a game to quick game. And our defense gave up 12 points, and although they gave up a decent amount of yards, they didn't give up any points in the second half. And as you said, they shut those guys down in the second half. And Walter's been coming along for us for the last year and a half, and just to see him, get his hands on the ball and almost get an interception and then be able to chase the quarterback down for a sack. He made some huge plays there down the stretch.
Well, this week you head to Richmond, and this is a regional game, and plenty of storylines all over the place. But the thing that stands out, they knocked off Virginia last week, and now Richmond has jumped to number 2 in FCS polls. So just talk about what you have to do in order to fight Richmond off.
Well, tremendous amount of respect for Coach Rocco and his staff. I've known Danny for a long time, and Richmond's been a quality program, since the early 2000s. And it doesn't shock me that they were able to go to Charlottesville and pull off that win. When you watch the tape, it wasn't a fluke FCS game. One of the games that, is won by a field goal or something like that. Richmond whipped them. We looked at it, and they were up 30-7 at one point. But in order for us to be successful, we're going to have to try to slow them down on offense. They do a great job of mixing the run and mixing the pass. And they've got a big physical defense that like I said, just beat Virginia up. So we're going to have to play one of our better games. Can't have the penalties that we had a week ago. We only had one turnover, so we've got to maximize that. And, the drop passes that we had on offense that led to 9 scoring opportunities, we've got to cut those things out. So we'll have to play very well to be competitive on Saturday.
Well, thank you, Coach. That concludes all of my questions. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
We do have a question from the line of John O'Connor with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please go ahead.
Coach Scott, can you share your thoughts on returning to Richmond?
It's home. I'm excited about it. I get the opportunity to see my family, see a bunch of my friends. The University of Richmond is a special place for me. I spent a lot of years there, but more importantly than me returning to Richmond, it's about us getting the opportunity to compete against one of the best teams in the country and possibly winning our second football game.
Have you given any thought to how you might feel when you walk in that stadium?
I've done it before, so that thing's kind of worn off. I was able to come back with James Madison a few years ago, and that was the first time that I had been back. But it's a special place. I won my first football game as a college head coach there, and like I said, a lot of special memories, a lot of special kids, a lot of special administrators. I mean, everybody at Richmond was first class during my time there, and again, I'm excited to be going back and playing there.
Appreciate the time. Good luck.
Thanks, John.
We have a question from the line of Ty Miller with SBN Sports. Please go ahead.
Coach Scott, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ty.
You just mentioned the fact that you always feel special going back in there. For some of your players, they will likely have friends on the team at Richmond. So can you talk about how excited they are to play this game?
Well, I think anytime you have the opportunity to play one of these games, it's special. It's a state game. It's a regional game. It's a game that makes sense for both schools to play. It's a game that I hope that we can continue to play for years to come. And when you have guys that were high school teammates, high school rivals, all those things, that makes these games that much better. Norfolk State has a huge alumni base there in Richmond, and the last check, I don't think there are very many tickets left for this game. So we're bringing the band. They're having all sorts of activities. So we're looking for a festive day and hopefully have a great football game as well.
Coach, the Spiders beat Virginia for the first time since 1946, and having a lot of knowledge of the program, can you talk about how far they've come and how much of a force they've become in that region?
I don't know if they've come a long way. I think the program's been in good shape for a long time. Coach Rocco has come along and continued to help develop the program and take it to the next step. He played in the national semis a year ago, and his team is very blue collar, very very tough, which is very representative of Danny's personality. And again, it was just no shock to me that those guys were able to do what they did last week.
And looking at some of the key stats of the game, they were able to hold the Cavaliers to only 38 yards rushing and force 4 turnovers. So how key will it be for your Spartans to play assignment football, also to protect the ball?
That's very key. Anytime you get 4 turnovers on an offense, you're probably going to win the football game. And that's what their defense was able to do. They got up early on Virginia, made Virginia throw the ball probably more than they wanted to. And that's probably got something to do with the limited amount of rushing yards. But they have a big physical defensive line, and they can force you into long yardage situations. So the thing that we need to do is, as you said, take care of the ball and stay on schedule and score points when we have opportunities.
Thank you, Coach, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
We have a question from the line of Dave Johnson with the Daily Press. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Latrell. How you doing?
Hey, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Hey, so you were on the other side when this game was scheduled. Is that correct?
Yeah. The associate athletic director, David Walsh, and I were scheduling games, I guess, 2009 or 10 or whatever it was, and this game came up, and David and I both thought that it was a great opportunity for us to play a regional game and have a great atmosphere, and just the way the world works, and the earth spins, I'm on the other side of it now.
Yeah. Now, I think that what you were saying earlier about it not looking like a fluke is true. Was there one thing in particular that Richmond did that really impressed you against Virginia?
They just manhandled them. I've been on both sides of that. I've been on a Richmond team that's gone down and beaten Duke. I've been at UVA when we lost to William & Mary. So I know both sides of this equation, and that football game was Richmond from start to finish.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
We do have a follow-up question from the line of Trevin A. Jones with SBN Sports. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I won't keep you long. Just one question. Everybody has asked all of the other questions I had. I see in the last game against Elizabeth City State, the fourth quarter was scoreless. How much emphasis, I know a lot of coaches do this anyway, are you putting on finishing, and how strong were the Spartans in finishing out this game?
Well, we weren't very strong in finishing the game. I mean, we came out and had a great first drive, went down and got points, scored again in the second quarter. We had the opportunity to score 3 times in the red zone in the second half, and we didn't get it done. And the majority of them, the majority of the reasons were self-inflicted mistakes, either dropping passes or holding penalties. So we've got to make sure that when we get the ball in the red zone that we're finding a way to get points. And we need to do a much better job this week of finishing than we did a week ago.
Great. Thanks for your time, Coach, and good luck.
Thank you.
We have a follow-up question from the line of Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please go ahead.
Coach Scott, having been and coached in the CIAA, did Elizabeth City show you more than you expected?
Not really. It's a good football team, and I think Coach Wilson has done a tremendous job at instilling a belief. I think they did some things early to catch us off guard. I think one thing that we didn't realize as a coaching staff here at Norfolk State that we had 19 guys that were playing college football for the first time that played in that game on Saturday, and you're going to have some mistakes and you're going to have some things not go your way, but I think Elizabeth City is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the CIAA. Again, all credit to Coach Wilson and his kids. They played as hard as they possibly could, and they played as well as they could possibly play.
You think Coach Wilson's familiarity with the MEAC may have had something to do with that?
Maybe so. I think he just put together a good game plan, and I think we had some guys playing on offense and defense that hadn't been in football games before, and he exploited some of those weaknesses.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time, Coach Scott, and good luck at Richmond on Saturday.
I appreciate it. Take care.
Norfolk State heads to Richmond this Saturday. The game kicks off at 6 p.m. and will be shown live on Comcast Sportsnet. Hampton University head coach Connell Maynor now joins us this morning. Hampton had to push his season opener back a day as they fell to Old Dominion on Sunday afternoon. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm fine. I wanted to ask you this question early on. I kind of felt like you battled early, fell behind, but then you was coming back and was within 10 points early in the third quarter. But then in the first half, you had a safety, and then you had that interception return in the third quarter, which shifted the momentum back to ODU, and it was hard to come back from. So just talk about Hampton's play on Sunday, and then also just touch on your home opener versus William and Mary this weekend.
Okay. We got off to a bad start. They ran the kick back to about the 40-yard line and threw a little flare pass, first play of the game, and he took it to the house for a touchdown. So it was one play, and they was up 7-zip. And, but we came back. We stayed hanging there, and we scored on our possession, made it 7-7. And then they scored in 3 more plays. And, so we came back and had a third down, and we had a play wide open over the middle, and we dropped the ball. That would have been a touchdown and made it 14-14. So we kind of squandered off a couple opportunities. We had a couple opportunities, and, the game got out of hand a little bit there, and we made it run right before half and got the score. And we knew if we got the ball coming out, if we could score, it'd be a ball game, and that was the game plan. We went down and drove the ball down and scored and made it the game, 31-21. We got to stop, got the ball back, and they stopped us, and then we got it back again, and we got a safety. Punter just dropped the ball, went right through his hands, and so then he picked it up and punted out the end zone, gave him a safety, and then we threw a pick late in the third quarter, pick 6, and that kind of did us in momentum-wise, gave them back the momentum and kind of just killed all our adrenaline and hopes, and and then they kind of got a couple unanswered touchdowns there in the fourth quarter. So, but I was proud of my guys. You know, they kept fighting, and we had opportunities. And well, you know, when you're playing against a FBS football program, a Conference USA team, you can't make mistakes like that. We got to play almost perfect game to go in there on the road in a hostile environment. I believe they had 20-something thousand sold out. And so, you know, we got to play almost perfect football, and we didn't do that. So, but I was proud of my guys, the way they fought and they played and competed. And, you know, we got to learn from it and get better. And we got William & Mary coming in this week, the first home game. It was ranked number 6 coming out. I don't know if they moved up or not. But they played NC State last week, and they played them tough. You know, it wasn't easy to play NC State. They had to work for everything they got. So they still have a good program. They'll be in the playoffs again, and, you know, they gave us our worst loss of the season last year. So we really have to be on a P's and Q's, got to play a little bit better. We turned the ball over 4 times last week. We can't do that. And we got to protect the quarterback a little bit better. We can't give up big plays.
Coach Maynor, Rashawn Proctor had a monster game, 160-plus receiving yards. Just talk about his development and how this play will help elevate the offense.
Well, we know we got some weapons at the wide receiver, and it's just not T.J. Mixon. And I think I said that at the roundup that, you know, we got some other weapons at wide receiving. So if people want to take T.J. Mixon out of the game, we got some other people that can step up and play also. So, you know, we just call the plays and read the defense. And if they're going to take T.J. away, then we go to somebody else. And, you know, the next man is up.
And also I noticed this weekend your leading tackler, Devin Van Dyke, had a solid game. And I'm not sure too many people naturally know about his story because I did some research, and he had a pretty good battle just to get back on the playing field. Could you just briefly talk about what Devin brings to the team, and how did you feel to see him make some plays on Sunday?
I was proud because we kind of held him back a little bit, made sure that he was going to be able to go the first game and limit his reps a little bit in camp. But he's a great story, and a transfer from Virginia Tech, and hasn't played in a couple of years, but he's a leader, and he's a tough player, and he's a leader on and off the football field, and that's what we need on that defense. We need somebody that's going to lead those guys and not scared to speak their mind, and of course he led the team in tackles, so he's everything that we thought he would be when we got him from Virginia Tech, and he's only going to get better.
Well, thank you, Coach. That concludes my questions. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
All right, thank you.
We have a follow-up question from the line of Dave Johnson with Daily Press. Please go ahead.
Hey, Connell. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Dave?
Doing good, thanks. Following up Ryan's question on Devin, how cautious did he have to be in August drill?
Well, it wasn't too cautious. You know, he still wears a knee brace, but, you know, he says he's fine, and he really don't need a knee brace, but the doctors want him to wear the knee brace. So, you know, we just, some of the contact drills, we kind of limited him, but, you know, we let him get out there and get some live action. But we just kind of, you know, cautionary reasons, just kept him out of some drills. But he's fine. He's fine.
I would imagine that with him having not played a game in however long it had been, just getting out there was half the battle for him. Could you sense what that meant to him to be able to play a game and play so well?
Yeah, I mean, it was big. You know, he was anxious and excited, and, you know, wanted to make sure his knee was going to hold up and he could play a game again. And it's been a couple of years, so he was excited after the game and before the game, and he's excited now that he's still healthy. He practiced today, and you know, he's ready to go. He's back.
The 10 tackles is pretty much what you were hoping for from him, the type of game you were hoping he'd play? Well,
you know, that can be misleading. You know, he can have 18 tackles. That means they're not secondary too much. So, you know, we just want him to play a solid game, to be where he's supposed to be and make the plays he's supposed to make when he's supposed to make the plays. You know, if the D-line is playing real well, he'll be freed up to make a lot of tackles. And, you know, if the D-line not playing well and the offensive lineman is getting to him, he's not going to have a lot of tackles. So it's kind of like a catch-22 thing there.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, to register for a question, please press 14 on your telephone. We do have a follow-up question from the line of Trevin A. Jones with SBN Sports. Please go ahead.
Coach Maynor, how you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good, Trev. How you doing?
I'm always doing good, Coach. Always good to talk to you. In order for Proctor to have a good game, Williamson had to be on point to some extent. How impressed were you with him going through his progressions and just leading that offense?
I think Jay played well. His stats wasn't the greatest. You know, he had 200 yards passing, and his completion percentage was a little down, but he had a lot of pressure on him. You know, he was getting hit a lot, even though he was throwing balls, completing balls, and, you know, he got sacked 3 times, I believe. So, you know, they did a good job up front in putting pressure on us, and, you know, Jay was playing under duress. So I thought he played well. Like you say, Proctor had 6 catches for 160 yards or whatever it was, but under the circumstance, the pressure that he was playing under, I thought Jay played well.
Now, playing at home this week, I know the team is going to be extra pumped. It's the home opener. How's the vibe on the campus?
I don't know. You know, it was a holiday yesterday, so no students was here. We was here. But today, you know, I've been we went out practice this morning. I've been in watching film ever since, so I don't really get out on campus to really know what type vibe that was going on out there. You know, I just know I got to prepare my guys because if we get prepared and we get a W, then we have a good vibe Saturday night.
Of course, and I wish you the best of luck, Coach. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. Well, thanks again, Coach Maynor, for your time, and good luck this Saturday against William and Mary. All right, thank you. Hampton will open up at home this Saturday versus William and Mary. Kickoff is set for 6 p.m. and will be streamed live on HamptonPirates.com. Our next head coach this morning is Savannah State's Erik Raeburn. Coach Raeburn made his Savannah State debut last week at Georgia Southern as the Tigers fell on the road. The Tigers are back on the road this weekend as they travel to Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Outside of summer camp scrimmages, this was your first time you could evaluate your team in true game situations. Just what stood out to you after watching the tape on both sides of the ball?
Well, yeah, we obviously we played a team that was much better than we are, and so it was difficult to have any consistency. But you know, when you watch the film, we did some good things. The problem was we couldn't do it on a consistent basis. So, you know, that's what we tried to talk to our guys about this week and after the game. Is, you know, we got to keep improving and cleaning up some of the mistakes that we're making, so we can be a little more consistent.
Talk about the play of your linebacker, Malik Simmons. He had 15 tackles in the season opener. Could you describe his style on the field, and do you expect that type of performance out of him each and every week?
You know, we've really been impressed with him in camp. He actually got elected captain by his teammates. You know, so the guys obviously respect him as a leader. And you know, I thought he played well. You know, obviously. Georgia Southern is really good at running the football, and so I thought he did a great job, you know, on some of the inside runs and then getting outside and helping on some of the option plays. So we were happy with him for sure, and hopefully he'll just. We really felt like he's improved a lot since the beginning of camp. So hopefully he'll continue to improve and keep getting better for us, but I know he's been got a great attitude and been a leader out there for us, and certainly has the respect of all of his teammates.
Well, this week you travel to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and you'll take on a Southern Miss opponent that rattled back and defeated Kentucky this weekend. What have you seen from Southern Miss on tape? And what is the game plan in order to stop them?
Yeah, obviously another excellent opponent. You know, offensively, they had about 600 yards against Kentucky and about 300 rushing. I know Kentucky's not on the top of the SEC, but they're still an SEC team. And so, you get 300 yards rushing against an SEC team, you're really a good football program. And obviously, we struggled to stop the run against Georgia Southern. So that'll be a real challenge for us. We have to do better in run defense. And then, unfortunately, their quarterback is an excellent player as well. So if you are getting up there and committing extra guys in the box to try and stop the run, he's got the arm to hurt you down the field and in the passing game. And then defensively, I thought this Kentucky game was a little misleading. Kentucky hit some big plays on them early on, but man, they really dominated the game. I thought, particularly in the second half, defensively, I think Kentucky only ran about 51 plays against them. So they just had a ton of 3-and-outs. They were able to get some takeaways. So I thought I was really impressed with them defensively. They're really fast and athletic, real veteran group. I think all their starters are either seniors or juniors. I think there's about 6 seniors and 5 juniors starting for them on the defensive side of the football. So they're a talented group and pretty veteran guys, and they were impressive on film.
Well, thank you, Coach. That concludes my questions. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, to register for a question, please press 14 on your telephone. Again, ladies and gentlemen, to register for a question, please press 14. We have no questions at this time.
Well, thank you for your time, Coach Raeburn, and good luck at Southern Miss on Saturday.
Thank you.
Savannah State will take on Southern Mississippi this Saturday evening in Hattiesburg, Mississippi at 6 p.m. Buddy Pough of South Carolina State is next on the call this morning. The Bulldogs fell to Central Florida last Saturday and will travel to Ruston, Louisiana to face off against the Bulldogs of Louisiana Tech on Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Now, from watching the contest on Saturday, the defense held its own for most of the game as they created plenty of pressure on the UCF quarterbacks. Talk about the play of the defensive line in particular, and as they had several moments where the quarterback was literally running, just trying to get away from them.
Well, we do have a good young nucleus of defensive linemen that we're developing. And, they seem to hold their own, I guess you could say, against Central Florida. But we still continue to give up too much and did not get them stopped in a way where we could get back on the field on offense. Offensively, though, we were probably maybe more inept, in our play that way. And didn't get enough accomplished that way either. So this looks like it's going to be a young team that we're going to have to drive pretty good to continue to develop to get to the point that they can compete at the level that we're attempting to compete at this point.
Well, this week you travel all the way to Ruston, Louisiana to play Louisiana Tech, and they're coming off a tough one at Arkansas last week. Could you talk about Louisiana Tech, but also just describe the relationship between you and their coach and Skip Holtz?
Well, Coach Holtz and I worked together for some time for when we worked with Coach Lou Holtz back when I was at South Carolina. Believe it or not, it's been almost 15 years since that took place, and we continue to be close. Coach and some of his assistants on his staff and some of the assistants on my staff know each other very well. And, we continue to be good friends that way. But now, this is a tough week for us, trying to prepare for Skip's team. They should have won at Arkansas. They played about as good as you could play, and just didn't get the desired results, I guess you could say. But this is a good football team, and of the three teams that we'll open with, Central Florida, Louisiana Tech, and Clemson, this is probably the middle team of the three. I've told our guys that it gets progressively harder from the beginning. So we've got our work cut out for us to go down and match up with this Louisiana Tech team this weekend.
And could you briefly touch on Caleb York? And he had some chances to make some big plays, just some of the deep balls were slightly overthrown. Just talk about selling him down and what you want to see from him this week.
Well, he does. He seems to be healthy. Caleb is, we think, a pretty good young quarterback. We've got to make some plays around him, though. And I think, we could take some of the pressure off of that position if we were able to be if we were able to be more balanced. But Caleb does do a nice job of getting us into the right calls and making the right checks and making some of the throws that he has to make, reading some of the progressions. But he's still a work in progress also. He played most of the season last year where he got a chance to play, I think, up through maybe game 8 last year. And he's now continued to develop so that we can, maybe get him to a point where he can become a little more consistent. And at that point, our offense, I think, would be more consistent.
Well, thank you, Coach. That concludes my questions. So we will now open up the call for questions from the media.
We do have a follow-up question from the line of Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please go ahead.
Good morning, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, Lute. How are you this morning?
I'm good. You mentioned 15 years being since you were down there with Lou Holtz. I got a question for a story I'm working on. It's a little change of direction, not about particularly last week or this coming week. But I do a list every year of the opening day, the number of black college players on opening day NFL rosters. When I started the Black College Sports Stage 23 years ago, there were 86 black college players on NFL rosters. This week, 23 years later, there are only 32 players. That's a 54-player drop over that span. Can you talk about what's the difference in recruiting players that have a chance to play in the league versus what was prevalent those many years ago?
Well, Lute, I think it's pretty obvious that we are getting a little less of that type of player, the kinds of guys that, that have those kinds of abilities to play in the league, to play at the next level. And I think it's just kind of a sign of the times. You've got to go continue to work hard to evaluate guys that, might not have some of the measurables that would give you an opportunity to play in the league. I think we've got 4 guys that were on our team, that was on our team last year, that are on some type of NFL roster this year. And, so it's still possible to recruit and develop those kind of guys. But, it's hard, and I think there's just so many schools playing ball now. There's more college football now than there was back when we were, maybe the most predominant of those kind of teams that sent guys to league. And we don't get as many of the guys that we used to get to. So you add those two ingredients together, it makes for, not having quite the level of ability that we once had.
Well, a couple other things related to that. Yeah, you have 4 guys off your team from last year. You have a total of 6 guys in the league, and that leaves all the HBCU players when you add Raphael Bush, who's with the Lions, as well as Joe Thomas, who made the active roster for the Green Bay Packers. First of all, congratulations. Huh?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Congratulations for that. But the other part of that is, I want you to speak about that about your team getting 4 players on rosters, opening day rosters, whether active or practice squads, but also the fact there are 18 MEAC players in the NFL this week that will be on opening day NFL rosters, and only 6 from the SWAC. And you know that's changed from previous years when the SWAC, 25, 30 years ago, the SWAC almost dominated when in terms of HBCUs players that make it in the pro ranks. What has changed for the MEAC to have this kind of dominance? Really 3 times more players than the SWAC, if you can put your finger on it.
You know what, Luke? And you've given me information that I didn't know. So, I've got to sit here and think about it a little bit. Obviously, we've had the upper hand and, in gathering, recruiting, developing, all the different kinds of things you got to do to get those kind of players to the next level here recently. But, I don't know if it's actually a real trend or if it just happens to be somewhat of a coincidence at this point.
Well, no, it's been going on now. Coach, it's been going on now for about 9 years that the MEAC,
really?
they passed the SWAC 9 years ago, and they have increased the lead every year over the past few years.
Well, I guess we've got better players than MEAC right now. It's the only thing I guess I can surmise, from the information you just stated. But, as I see teams, as I see programs, as I see facilities, I look at some of the teams over on that side, I still see the potential for them to continue to have, good players just as we have. I just think that maybe, they just hadn't had quite the success that we've had. Maybe we've gotten a little bit of an edge that way, but, I don't know the exact reason why. I can tell you I do not.
Okay, and the last part is 4 guys off of your team, off your last year's team, Antonio Hamilton, Hargrave, and Hemingway, that were drafted, as well as Scoot Simmons up in Carolina. How does that make you feel about the direction your program is heading and the kind of guys you're bringing in?
Well, I think it makes you feel good. You're always excited for your young folk to have, those kinds of opportunities. I got another guy who just opened an orthopedic surgeon's practice, who kicked for us a few years ago, too. So, I'm pretty excited about him, too. So, we've got all kinds of different possibilities of opportunities for our young men who come here and play. And I'm always happy for the pro players, but I'm also happy for the school teachers and the doctors and the lawyers and all the other kind of stuff that we have that play here and move on to these great careers.
Have you ever had 4 off of a team that graduated or left your program to make a league that you can remember?
We had players back when I was an assistant here with Bill Davis. We had maybe 5 or 6 guys, in a year to go and make teams and play that kind of way. So we've had years, but now here recently, no. Since I've been the head coach here, no, we hadn't had that many in 1 year. And we've got good players here for next year's team. But I tell you what, I can sure see some big holes that we're trying to fill for this team from last year's players. And, we've got to see if we can work that out, because if not, with the schedule we got, we'll be in a world of hurt.
Thanks, Coach, for taking those questions. Good luck this Saturday.
Well, thank you for your time, Coach Pough, and good luck as you travel to Louisiana Tech this weekend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.
You too. South Carolina State will travel to Ruston, Louisiana this weekend as they'll battle Louisiana Tech at 6 p.m. Greensboro, North Carolina is our next stop as we join North Carolina A&T State head coach Rod Broadway. The Aggies recorded a shutout over St. Augustine's last weekend and now heads to Kent State of the Mack on Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ron. How are you?
I'm great, Coach. You had a good weekend in terms of the Aggies. They had all-around performance last weekend as nearly everybody on the team saw action. Just talk about the play against St. Augustine's last week.
Well, it was a good win for us, but all wins are good wins, and we were, they were a little bit overmatched, and as you say, we played everybody that we had, and, we were good enough to get out with a win and hopefully, get better as a football team.
Now your quarterback, Lamar Raynard, he was stats honorable mention honors for his play last week. He had 81% completion percentage, threw 2 touchdowns, and ran for another. Just talk about what he did last week, and do you expect that of him every week this year?
I would like to think so, and he's developing quite nicely actually as a quarterback, and he throws a beautiful ball, and he's beginning to understand coverages and defenses a lot better than last season, and hopefully he can continue to get better. And the receivers made a few plays for him last week, so they both need to continue to grow and develop.
And this week you head to Kent State on Saturday, and based on your history of playing teams up when you was at North Carolina Central, Grambling, and now A&T, do you prepare differently for those games because they have more depth, obviously, or you just approach it like any other game?
We just carry on business as usual. We don't change a lot during the course of the year, and we stick with the blueprint that we have. So, no, we're just going to go up and see if we can compete with these guys. And, I know they're a much improved team from last year. As I watch them on tape, they've taken some big steps forward as a football team, and I thought they played really well in spots against Penn State last week.
And lastly, Tariq set the touchdown record. Just talk about what does that mean to you in terms of watching him develop from a freshman to where he is now?
Well, I'd say to anyone on the list, this kid's special in a lot of ways, not just on the field, but off the field in practice. His leadership, his personality, he has a lot of positive things going for him, and I'm extremely happy that he's able to do the things that he's been able to do. And this kid, he can play. I mean, he had a 6-yard run that was unbelievable Saturday, and it was only 6 yards, but that's the type of player he is. So hopefully he can continue to get better and be productive for us. But I'm happy for he and his family that he's the leading touchdown scorer in the history of the school.
Well, thank you, Coach. That concludes my questions. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
We do have a follow-up question from the line of Ty Miller with SBN Sports. Please go ahead.
Coach Broadway, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ty.
Hey, Coach Haynes at Kent State says he believes that you have a team that could go deep in the playoffs if it were not for the Celebration Bowl. Do you agree with that?
Oh, we played one game against a team that we were better than, Ty, so I really don't know how good we are. I just know that we need to continue to develop and get better every week. And we got some players in place, and, if we can stay healthy, I think we'll have a chance of having a pretty good football team. But it's way too early now to try to figure out where we are and how deep we can go and all those other things. So, but again, as I said earlier, we're just looking forward to going up and competing against a Kent State team I thought has made tremendous progress this last year. They've gotten much better.
And another thing Coach Haynes said in his press conference yesterday was that the strength of your team is in part your staff. So can you talk about your assistant coaches and how key they are to the staff?
Well, I've said all along we have an outstanding staff. A lot of guys have been together for a lot of years and good football coaches, but more important than that, Ty, is they're good people, and they work well together, and, we can sit down and disagree and come up with a game plan and go out and work on the game plan together. And, they've done a tremendous job since we've been here, really preparing our guys to play. And, I wouldn't trade them for any staff in the country.
Now, the old adage is that teams make the most improvements from week 1 to week 2, and having such a lopsided score is kind of misleading for fans who watch teams because the score is what the score is. But I'm sure there are a lot of things that you saw that your team needs to clean up. Can you point out a couple of things that maybe you need to work on?
Yes, number one, Ty, is our effort. I don't think we play nearly as hard as we're capable of playing. I don't think we play nearly as fast as we're capable of playing. The other thing, we had 2 really explosive plays, touchdown call back because of penalties. We got to get that cleaned up. We can't have those penalties against a team that's better than us and expect to be successful. Fundamentally, I think we've got to get much better. Our hand placement, our eyes on certain positions has got to improve a lot. So there's a lot of work to be done, and but the kids are working hard and coaches are teaching hard. So hopefully we can get better in those areas.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you, Ty.
Well, thank
Ladies
you, Coach
and gentlemen.
Broadway.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us this morning, and have a safe trip to Kent State this weekend.
All right, Ron. Take care, buddy.
You too.
All right,
North Carolina A&T State will travel to Kent State on Saturday. Kickoff is set for 6 p.m., and the contest will be streamed live on ESPN3. We will close out this morning's teleconference with Jerry Mack of North Carolina Central. The Eagles fell to Duke last weekend and are back on the road as they'll head to Western Michigan on Saturday. Good morning, Coach Mack.
Good morning, Ryan.
On Saturday, one item that stood out as watching the game, that your team didn't quit, especially defensively, as Duke was held scoreless in the second half. Just talk about the defense's play and how little things like that can shape up the rest of the season.
We went into halftime and, we discussed some things, and we had a, kind of a come to Jesus meeting, so to speak, with that defense and with the whole team, so to speak. And, when you get a chance to play an opponent like that, the game got a little out of hand in the first half. But one thing I've always said about our team is we're not going to quit. We made some adjustments. The guys went out there, they took the game plan to another level in the second half, and we ended up coming away with a few points on the board and also created some turnovers and things like that that allowed us to, see some positive things in that second half from our team.
Talk about the play of the offense. I know you weren't pleased at times, but just talk about their development and what they need to work on this week.
I think the biggest thing is execution. When you go back and you review the game film, you can see that the plays are there, or we got people in position to make plays. They just didn't come up with the ball, the run, or the catch, or the block for that matter, whatever happened. But I think we go back to the drawing board and we clean up some of the execution things. They got to understand when we in a certain situations, we have to come up with those plays. Against a caliber team like Duke, it doesn't matter. You have to be able to execute and convert on third down.
And this seems to be a trend this week in the MEAC. Several of the teams, I know you don't know it when you schedule them, but the opponents this week, a lot of them knocked off Power 5 teams, and now you head to Western Michigan, who just knocked off Northwestern on Saturday. Talk about Western Michigan and their program, and what's the game plan for them this week?
Well, incredible program. Coach Fleck has done a great job in his time as the head coach up there. He really has done a great job recruiting. You can tell he got those guys playing hard, and more than anything, they believe in it. They can walk into any stadium and beat any given body on any given day, and that's kind of what you want from your team. As far as them talent-wise, very talented team. It's going to take us. It's going to take us to play a mistake-free football game in order to have any kind of success against this kind of team. They're an upper-level team. They have some talent. They have some NFL players on their roster that's probably going to be on NFL rosters next year. So what we got to do is control what we control, and we as a team have to get better from game 1 to game 2. That's the biggest thing I'm looking for from our team. If we do those things, we'll give ourselves a chance.
And lastly, your kicker had a good game, scored both of your points, and set a record for longest kick in quite some time at Central. So just talk about his development and what did he bring to the table on Saturday?
Brandon McLaurin's done a great job. It started all the way back on August 1st when we reported to camp. He's done a great job of doing some really good things for us, not only on the field but off the field as well. He's becoming a really good teammate. He's doing some things in the kicking game that is really better than he's done the last couple of years. So what I've seen him take his game to another level coming into his senior year. And I'm just looking forward to watching him develop and continue to grow this upcoming year to see if he can do some exciting things for us.
And I would be remiss not to bring this up, but Ryan Smith is on the NFL roster this week. So just talk about how happy are you for him and what you expect from him from this point?
We're extremely happy and proud of Ryan. You know, he's a young man that he was around here this summer as well, working out with some of the guys, and you know, he's still a face around the program. So, you know, all the guys, not only do they know him, they aspire to do some of the similar things that he has done on the field and off the field. So, you know, words can't express how excited and proud we are of Ryan. I think he's going to have a really good career in Tampa. I think they're really excited about what he can do from the defense standpoint, also from a special team and the return game as well.
Well, Coach, thank you, and that concludes my questions. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, to register for a question, please press 14 on your telephone. We do have a follow-up question from the line of Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please go ahead.
Coach Mack, good morning.
Morning, Luke.
Or almost this afternoon. Would you say you were disappointed that your team did not compete as well or make progress from where they played last year? I know you got back some guys that you didn't have last year in the passing game in particular. Was that disappointing for you on Saturday?
Yeah, you know, I was kind of disappointed in the way offensively we didn't execute like I thought we were going to execute. We had opportunities to make plays on the offensive side of the ball. You know, a lot of drop balls. When you go back and look at the film from a schematic standpoint, the plays were there, but the guys got to come up with the play. They got to come up with the catch or the throw or even the block for that matter.
Was it? Do you see it as a step back rather than a step forward? If the team had played better, competed better, do you think it was a step back in terms of progressing from a year ago?
You know, I think when you look at it, you know, we did have some guys that were kind of new to that arena to as far as, you know, playing in that first big game like that. So I wouldn't say it's a step back necessarily, but I do think they have to get better. You know, in order to compete at the caliber that we're going to need to compete in the MEAC, they cannot go out there against anybody and play like that as far as dropping balls and not making the right reads and things like that.
What did you think of Malcolm's play at quarterback?
I think Malcolm got to get more help around him. I saw him do some really good things as far as making some throws that I've never seen Malcolm make in the last 2 years that we've been here. Some of them were accurate and right on point, but he has to get some help from his supporting cast. You know, he's only one man. He can only do so much. If he plays like that, it's some times as we move forward and he gets some help from his supporting cast, it could be a really special year for him.